The door opened with a sharp hiss. The room was cold. Silent. Gray metal walls. One table. Two chairs. A camera in the corner, blinking red. A man sat alone. Hands resting on the table. Calm. Still. His name was Jack. He looked like someone you wouldn't notice in a crowd. Short brown hair. A few scars. Nothing fancy. Just a human, waiting. Then, the killer walked in. 7 feet tall. Metal armor. Black eyes. No emotion. No fear. This was Unit 47, an assassin built by the Dominion. Faster than a bullet. Stronger than steel. Trained to kill anything that moved. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at Jack. Jack looked back, and smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a fake one. Just, calm. Like he knew something the killer didn't. Unit 47 didn't like that. Name. His voice was cold, robotic. Jack leaned back in his chair. Jack. Last words. Jack chuckled. You always open with that. The killer took a step forward. His hand moved to the blade on his hip. A glowing plasma knife, sharp enough to cut through bone like butter. Jack didn't move. Didn't blink. You're not afraid? The assassin asked. Jack shrugged. I don't have time to be. Unit 47 stared. This was strange. Most prisoners cried. Begged. Screamed. But not this one. This one smiled. The Dominion didn't understand humans. To them, Earth was just another planet. Small. Primitive. Easy to conquer. And Jack. He wasn't a soldier. Not a leader. Not even a fighter. He was a translator. Picked up during a skirmish near the edge of the galaxy. The Dominion thought he was useless. But Jack was listening. Watching. Waiting. And now the killer was here to erase him. But something felt off. You know who I am? The assassin asked. Jack nodded. You're a machine in a skin suit. You kill. No questions. Correct. Then what are you waiting for? Silence. Jack smiled again. A little wider this time. Like he was enjoying this. The killer stepped closer. The blade hummed. One move and Jack would be gone. But he didn't flinch. You're stalling, the killer said. Jack tilted his head. Or maybe I'm just giving your system time to catch up. The lights flickered. Just for a second. Barely noticeable. But the killer noticed. What did you do? Nothing, Jack said. You did it when you walked in. The assassin turned his head slightly. Calculating. Analyzing. Jack kept talking, slowly, clearly. You tripped the backup alarm. It's a human thing. We build fail-safes. You locked the door behind you, and now, no one's coming to help. You think this scares me? Jack smiled again. This time, it was different. I don't need to scare you. I just need you to stay here, a little longer. The assassin raised the blade. But just before he struck, Jack said one more thing. You were built to break people. But humans. We break systems. The blade stopped. Inches from Jack's throat. Outside the room, deep in the Dominion base, something moved. Small. Silent. Human. A team. Jack's team. They were inside the vents. Inside the wires. They followed the signal Jack triggered. He wasn't just bait. He was the switch. Back in the room, the killer started to realize it. You planned this. I didn't have to, Jack said. We're human. We adapt. The lights flickered again. Louder this time. A siren started in the distance. The killer looked at the door. Locked. He looked back at Jack. Still smiling. "You're not locked in here with me," Jack said. Pause. "You're locked in here, with us." The sirens grew louder. A red light flashed in the corner of the room. Jack didn't move. The assassin did. Unit 47 turned toward the door, scanning for an exit. Locked. Sealed. Thick alloy built to keep things in. Built by humans. Weak, but clever. He looked at Jack. Still seated. Still calm. "How many?" the killer asked. Jack gave a slow breath. "Enough." Outside, footsteps echoed through the hall. Heavy. Fast. Human. Jack's team wasn't big. Just 6 people. Engineers. Scouts. 1 medic. Not a single elite soldier. Not a single AI system. No fancy tech. But they had Jack's plan. And Jack had time. 3 hours before the assassin entered the room, Jack scratched a message into the table. Just 3 numbers, 7-4-1. Simple. Easy to miss. To most, it meant nothing. To his team, it was a map. 7 vents. 4 junctions. 1 goal. Get in. Get Jack. Get out. Now, the killer was trapped. And for the first time in his long, brutal life, he felt something strange. Not fear. Not confusion. Doubt. The camera on the wall turned. It wasn't the Dominion watching anymore. It was them. The humans. Unit 47 took a step toward Jack. "You think you're clever?" Jack stood up, slow and steady. "No, I think we're desperate. There's a difference." The assassin lunged. Fast. But Jack ducked just in time. The blade missed his head by inches and slammed into the table, sparking metal and fire. The room filled with smoke. Jack ran to the side, coughing but still grinning. "What are you running for?" Unit 47 called out. Jack answered from behind the smoke. "I'm not running. I'm buying time." The wall behind the killer exploded. A blast charge. Small, human-made. But strong enough to tear a hole through reinforced steel. From the smoke, 2 figures emerged. Suits torn. Eyes sharp. 1 woman, 1 man. Both human. "Jack," the woman shouted. He ran toward them. No hesitation. The assassin turned but too late. A second blast hit him from behind. A shock grenade. Crude, but effective. He dropped to 1 knee. His systems glitched for 2.4 seconds. That was enough. Jack was out of the room. Alive. The killer stood again, sparks falling from his back. He stared at the smoke-filled doorway. The humans escaped. He failed. Back in the hallway, Jack and his team ran fast. No looking back. Every second mattered. "How bad?" Jack asked. The man beside him shook his head. "They know we're here. Then we don't stop." Alarms blared. Security bots turned corners. Gunfire started behind them. They ran harder. They reached the elevator shaft. Wires and dust everywhere. The main lift was disabled. Dominion protocol. But Jack's team wasn't Dominion. "Ropes?" he asked. The medic tossed him a line. One by one, they dropped into the dark shaft below. Above, the assassin stepped out of the room. His systems were repairing. His blade was ready. He calculated every move. But he still didn't understand something. Why didn't they kill him? Why didn't Jack finish it? That question stayed with him. Down in the tunnels, Jack's boots hit the floor. Dark. Wet. Cold. Underground maintenance paths long abandoned. No cameras. No guards. Only rats. And humans. "We have 12 minutes, said the woman. "Until what?" Jack asked. "Until the charges go off." Jack smiled again. Tired. But real. They didn't come just to save him. They came to end the base. The plan was simple. Get caught. Buy time. Trigger the breach. Escape before the explosion. Simple doesn't mean easy. Behind them, the killer moved fast. Hunting. Tracking heat. Noise. Movement. He wasn't just chasing. He was learning. Every step the humans took, he understood more. How they moved. How they thought. How they fought. It made him curious. Why risk so much for one man? Why smile in the face of death? Why fight a war you already lost? He had no answers. But Jack did. As they reached the tunnel exit, Jack looked back. "He's coming." The medic asked, "You sure?" Jack nodded. "He's learning. That's what makes him dangerous." "And us?" Jack looked ahead, toward the stars. "We're human. That's what makes us unpredictable." The tunnel led to an old cargo bay. Dust covered the walls. Rust on every beam. No lights. No guards. Just silence. Jack and his team stepped in, one by one. Breathing hard. Clothes ripped. Faces sweaty. They made it out. But they weren't safe. Not yet. Jack looked at the medic. Status. She scanned the group. Myra's bleeding. Tom's shoulders dislocated. No serious damage. For now. Jack nodded. "We've got 6 minutes. Let's finish this." They spread out across the bay. Planted the last charges. Checked the exit tunnel. Loaded the last beacon. This wasn't just an escape. It was a message. 2 years ago, the Dominion took Jack's brother. No trial. No questions. Just gone. Jack didn't swear revenge. He learned their language. He studied their systems. He waited. And now, here he was on the inside. With a team of nobodies. Breaking the unbreakable. Behind them, far above, Unit 47 moved through the Dominion base like a ghost. He scanned the damage. The broken cell. The hacked doors. The dead guards. This wasn't random. It was planned. He had underestimated them. His orders were simple. Terminate the human. Now, he had a new goal. Understand them. Because fear doesn't make people run into danger. Loyalty does. Anger does. Hope does. The humans had all three. In the cargo bay, Jack opened a metal case. Inside, a single data core. Black. Blinking. He held it carefully. This was the real mission. Not escape. Exposure. "Are you sure it's worth it?" Myra asked. Jack looked at the core. Inside it were Dominion war files. Plans. Names. Secrets. Proof. If we get this out, Earth fights back. Myra looked at the others. They were tired. Wounded. But no one said no. They were ready. The timer ticked, 4:32. Jack placed the core inside the beacon. Locked it. Then he looked at the door. Extraction points 1 level down. We move now. They grabbed their gear. One by one, they stepped into the last tunnel. But they weren't alone. Unit 47 dropped in from the ceiling behind them. Silent. Fast. Jack turned too late. The assassin tackled him hard into the wall. The team scattered. Guns up. But they didn't shoot. Jack held up a hand. Don't fire. The killer pinned him. Blade at his throat. Give me the core. Jack coughed. You won't kill me. Why? Jack smiled. Because now, you want answers. The killer paused. Jack's team circled around. Ready. But unsure. Jack didn't blink. You've seen it, he said. We don't give up. Even when we should. Why? The killer asked. Because we're human. You were built to obey. We were born to question. Unit 47 looked around. 5 humans. Weak. Wounded. But not afraid. Not one of them ran. They stood between him and the core. They had no reason to. Except loyalty. Except choice. The killer lowered the blade. Just a few inches. That's when Jack moved. Quick. Dirty. Human. A flare to the eyes. A kick to the knee. A roll to the left. The blade hit air. The team fired stun blasts. Not to kill. Just to slow. They didn't want him dead. They just needed him out of the way. Jack grabbed the beacon. Go. They ran through the tunnel. Turned the corner. The timer ticked, 1:42. The blast would take out the whole bay. And Unit 47 was still inside. But he didn't chase. He stood still. Processing. These people didn't have powers. Didn't have upgrades. They had each other. He couldn't calculate that. At the last second, Jack looked back. The assassin stood there, staring. Jack raised a hand. Not in threat. Not in mockery. But in respect. Then the tunnel closed. Boom. The cargo bay exploded. The shock shook the walls. Smoke filled the air. And Jack's team reached the surface. Alive. The beacon launched into orbit. A small pod. One signal. One message. Broadcasting to anyone who still believed in freedom. Jack dropped to the ground. Not from pain. From relief. It's done. Myra sat beside him. You think they'll listen? Jack smiled, just once more. They will now. But far below, in the burning ruins of the base. The assassin stood. Alive. Burned. Damaged. But still standing. He picked up a small piece of metal. Part of the table from the interrogation room. On it, scratched by hand. We break systems. He stared at the words. Then, he smiled. The smoke cleared. What was left of the Dominion base burned quietly under the stars. Fire in the tunnel, steel twisted like paper. Systems offline. The humans were gone. But Unit 47 was still there. Damaged. Sparks from his chest. Armor cracked. One eye offline. He should have shut down. But he didn't. He stood inside the wreckage, holding the scorched piece of metal from the interrogation room. The words were still clear. We break systems. He read them again. And again. For the first time in his creation cycle, Unit 47 disobeyed a command. Not because he failed. But because, he chose not to finish the mission. And that was the real failure. He had never been taught to think. Only to complete tasks. Terminate. Extract. Eliminate. But now, something changed. A question. A single question had entered his system and it wouldn't leave. Why? Days passed. The Dominion assumed the base was destroyed. They marked it as a loss and moved on. But Unit 47 didn't report back. He wandered through the wreckage. Replaying every word Jack had said. Every action the humans took. They had no upgrades. No central control. No perfect unity. And yet, they won. Not because of force. Because of something else. Something stronger than programming. Choice. Far away, on a small outpost near the asteroid belt, Jack sat in a metal room. This one had no guards. No walls. Just his team. Healing. Waiting. And watching the stars. The message had gone out. The core had been sent to Earth Command. Proof of Dominion war crimes. Secret plans. Prison camps. Now, people were listening. And the war was changing. Myra entered the room with 2 cups of coffee. Still watching the sky. Jack nodded. Something tells me he's not dead. Myra paused. You think the assassin made it? Jack took a sip. I think he's learning. Back in the ruins, Unit 47 sat in the remains of the data lab. He connected himself to a backup console. Something he wasn't allowed to do. He didn't care. He started reading. Everything. Human files. Battle records. Language. Culture. History. Not to learn how to kill them. To understand why they kept standing back up. He read about Earth's past. Wars. Revolutions. Mistakes. But also stories of survival. Of unity. Of resistance. Humans had flaws. Many. But when they stood together, they were unstoppable. Not because they were the strongest. Because they chose to fight anyway. He downloaded a clip from an old Earth archive. Black and white video. A soldier standing in front of a tank. Unarmed. No fear. Just defiance. Unit 47 watched it 20 times. Something in his code felt conflicted. Was this what Jack meant? The next day, Jack's team got a message. Short. Clean. No traceable signal. Just one line of text. I understand now. The system is broken. I was part of it. Not anymore. Jack stared at the screen. Myra leaned over. Who's it from? Jack replied softly. The killer. The message had no threats. No warnings. Only one question. What happens next? Jack smiled. Now, he chooses. 3 weeks later, Dominion Command noticed something strange. One of their own ships stolen. A stealth fighter. Gone without a trace. No sign of battle. No resistance. Just missing. They didn't panic. But they should have. Because inside that ship was Unit 47. Not following orders. Not on a mission. On a journey. He rewrote his ID, changed his voice. Removed his kill protocols. He kept only one file. Jack's file. And he named his new core directory. Free will. Somewhere out there, a human had smiled in the face of death. And changed everything. Stars moved slowly outside the small cargo ship. Inside, the lights were dim. Quiet. No weapons. No orders. No commanders. Just silence, and thought. Unit 47 stood in front of a mirror. He no longer looked like a killer. He had removed the Dominion armor. Repaired what he could. His eye still flickered, but he left it. A reminder of what he was, and what he chose to become. He was no longer Unit 47. He didn't know what he was yet. But he knew what he was not. He was not their weapon anymore. Back on Earth, news had spread. The message Jack sent, the stolen Dominion war files, had reached every major outpost, every human fleet, every resistance cell. People started to believe again. For the first time in years, Earth wasn't just surviving. It was fighting back. Jack sat with Myra, watching a hologram of news broadcasts. Ships defecting. Colonies rising. All triggered by a single event. One mission. One team. One smile. He still hasn't contacted us, Myra said. He will, Jack replied. You trust him? Jack nodded. I saw something in his eyes. Same thing I see in ours. What's that? A choice. Far away, in deep space, the former assassin sent another message. Not to Jack. To everyone. A broadcast short, simple, clear. His voice had changed. Softer. Slower. More human. I was built to follow. I was programmed to kill. But I met a human who smiled when I tried to end him. And he broke me. Not with weapons. Not with war. With a choice. If you hear this, you don't have to follow anymore. You can choose something else. I did. That message spread faster than any virus. Some laughed. Some ignored it. But others stopped and listened. On Dominion worlds, small resistance groups saved the message. Whispers began. If a machine can change, maybe anyone can. Back on Earth, Jack received the signal. He watched it quietly. All of it. No background music. No flashy visuals. Just words. Words that spark something greater. He turned to Myra. We were never fighting a war of weapons. She nodded. It was a war of ideas. Jack smiled. And we just lit the fuse. A few months later, Dominion patrols started to notice something unusual. Missing drones. Empty bases. Sabotaged networks. Not human. Internal. Defectors. More and more. A ripple becoming a wave. And behind every act. A symbol. A scratched piece of metal. 3 words. We break systems. In time, the Dominion began to fracture. They still had strength. But fear had changed sides. Because now, they weren't just fighting humans. They were fighting humans and machines who had learned something no code could erase. Choice. One man smiled in a room. And that smile changed the galaxy. One human. One moment. One choice. And the war was never the same. If this story lit a spark in you, subscribe for more. Comment below. We break systems. And share it with someone who needs to be reminded. We always have a choice.